Kaavya-kutuhalam is about new experiments in the field of Chitrakavya. When we think of Sanskrit poetry, many imagine it as something confined to ancient manuscripts, a glorious tradition that has faded into history. But what if I told you that not only is Sanskrit poetry alive and thriving today, but that one of its most specialized and intricate forms, Chitrakavya, is actively innovating, creating new forms never before attempted in the tradition? So, what is Chitrakavya? Chitrakavya is a specialized genre of Indian poetry, predominantly in Sanskrit, that aims to create camatkāra. Camatkāra is that moment of wonder, that delightful aha experience in the audience. How does it achieve this? Through the incorporation of extraordinary constraints that go far beyond the common requirements of meter that are already present and that are part and parcel of traditional Sanskrit poetry. Let me give you a sense of what these constraints look like. Some examples of traditional constraints include the Gata Pratyagata. Imagine an entire work where every verse, when read forwards, tells the story of Rama, but when read backwards, narrates the story of Krishna. This is precisely what Venkatadhwari from Tamil Nadu accomplished in his Raghava Yadaviya. Or consider a verse composed using just two consonants, ta and ra. The verse is Tara Tara Tarai Retai Ruttaruttara Torutai Ratartha Tittiri Rauti Tire Tire Tarau Tarau. Or you could have verses that avoid all labial sounds, the Oshtya Varnas. No pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, not even u and u. Or verses that read exactly the same forwards and backwards, what we could call as Gata Pratyagata or Anuloma Pratiloma. Sometimes letters in a verse are made to repeat at specific positions so that their repetition can be diagrammatically represented as a pattern of coiled snake, Kundalita Naga, a drum, Muraja, a garland, Mala, or a lotus, Padma, with a specific number of petals. Then there are verses like the Turagapada Patha, the Knight's Move. Here you arrange the 32 letters of a shloka in a 4x8 matrix and then traverse all the 32 positions following the knight's move, that is the horse's move from chess, never repeating a position. Mind you, you never repeat a position. This movement extracts an entirely new verse from the original. Chitrakavya is a living tradition. People often think that Sanskrit poetry, even Sanskrit poetry, is a thing of the past. They don't realize that not just Sanskrit poetry in general, but this very specialized area within Sanskrit poetry, Chitrakavya, is not merely surviving but actively innovating. New constraints are being invented and the scope of older constraints is being expanded, all with the same ancient goal. The goal is to create wonder, the aha moment, camatkāra, in the audience. This presentation is about such novel experiments in the field of Chitrakavya. All the examples you will see now are verses from my own works, either full-fledged compositions devoted to Chitrakavya or individual verses composed according to newly invented constraints. Let us explore each technique in the tabs above to discover these marvels. Gūḍhapāda, an example from Gūḍhapādarāmāyaṇam, or in fact two examples from Gūḍhapādarāmāyaṇam. What is this Gūḍhapāda? You could translate Gūḍhapāda as hidden line. So this is the hidden line technique. Our first example comes from the work called as Gūḍhapādarāmāyaṇam, which expands the scope of a specific type of Chitrakavya known as Gūḍhapāda, or as I just mentioned, hidden line. While stray verses employing this constraint appear in classical Sanskrit literature, one or two verses here and there in an entire epic like Mahaga's Shishupala-vadham, this is the first time in the history of Sanskrit literature that this constraint has been employed to summarize the entire narrative of Rāmāyaṇa in approximately 180 verses. So what is this Gūḍhapāda constraint? Each Sanskrit verse, as many of you know, has 4 lines. These are called padas. The number of letters in each line is determined by the meter. In this work, Gūḍhapādarāmāyaṇam, I have chosen the Anuštubh meter. or the shloka meter, which has 8 letters in each line. Now, observe the verse carefully. Each of the 8 letters in the first line has a twin somewhere in the remaining 3 lines. For example, there is a letter at position 1.1, that is the first row, first column. This letter appears again at position 4.4, that is the fourth row, fourth column. Similarly, the letter at 1.2, that is first row, second column, also appears at 3.3, third row and third column, and so on. In other words, the entire first line is here hidden among the letters of the second, third and fourth lines. This could be called as Gūḍhapādarāmāyaṇam. The animation will now reveal how each syllable finds its secret partner. Watch carefully. Nidhāyāvaraje Sītāṃ ayāsīt jalajekshanah sonudhavannato rankum atanto nibidātavīṃ. Having entrusted Sita to Lakshmana, the lotus-eyed Rama untiringly followed the deer through the dense forest. Nidhāyāvaraje Sītāṃ ayāsīt jalajekshanah sonudhavannato rankum matanto nibidātavīṃ. The first line is the hidden line, Gūḍhapāda. Now look how each of the letters in the first line finds its secret partner in other lines. This is a second verse from the same work, Gūḍhapādarāmāyaṇam. Pranamya cha tato devan achaladutpapatasah aparadustharodanvat payolanghana lalasah. Having bowed down to gods, he leapt from the mountain, eager to cross the vast, difficult to cross ocean. Pranamya cha tato devan achaladutpapatasah aparadustharodanvat payolanghana lalasah. Here, the second line is the hidden line. So this is an example of Gūḍhadvitiyapada. Look at how every letter in the second line finds its secret partner in the other line. In the first line, in the third line, as well as the fourth line. For example, Du in the second line finds its partner in the third line. Tpa finds its partner in the fourth line. Pa finds its partner in the third line. Ta finds its partner in the first line. And Saha finds its partner in the fourth line. Now, let us look at Pratipāda-apunarukta-svara. What is Pratipāda-apunarukta-svara? Every line unrepeated vowel. This is a completely novel type of Chitrakavya which I have invented, and I myself have named it as Pratipāda-apunarukta-svara. The name literally means every line, Pratipāda, Apunarukta, not repeated, vowel, swara. In other words, in each line of the verse, every vowel is used only once. Every vowel means every swara. The constraint is not mentioned anywhere in traditional literature, and the verse is taken from a collection of verses called as Chitrachintamani-stava in praise of Lord Shiva. Let me explain the constraint. Like the previous example, this verse is also composed in the Anushtubh meter with 8 letters in each line. Now, examine each letter carefully. Here, what I mean by letter, or what we could call as syllable, is one or more consonant plus an vowel. Pay attention to the vowel attached to each letter. You will notice that in a string of 8 letters, each vowel appears only once. The heat diagram, which you will see along with the illustration, shows how each vowel is uniquely represented in each line. No repetition within a single pada. This creates a beautiful mathematical pattern across the vowel space of Sanskrit. Watch as each vowel is highlighted in sequence. This is the verse. Kaivalyam bodhipurnendus trayi mrigyo vibhatume Shuli Shaila Suta Cheto Neerajai Karuno Hridi. Let Shiva, who is the full moon to the ocean of liberation, searched by the Vedas and the sole sun that causes the heart of Parvati to bloom, protect us. Look at the illustration. We have divided each syllable into its component consonants and vowels. Kai is I plus K. V is V plus A. Lya is Lya plus A. There is also a representation of the swaras on one side of the screen. You can see how the heat diagram shows that in each line a swara is used only once. For example, the swara pattern in the first line is A, I, U, A, I, O. The other three swaras are not used. You can see how difficult this pattern is given a paucity of the number of swaras. Now let us move to Anantarākṣarī, the next letter pattern. This is a name which I myself have given to this new Chitrakavya type. The name literally means the pattern that is based on the very next letter. Here again, we have an Anushtup verse with 8 letters in each line, giving us a total of 32 letters in the entire verse. The verse that is about to be shown is in praise of goddess Saraswati. How does this pattern work? Of these 32 letters, the first 16 letters are carefully chosen so that the next 16 letters depend on them. How is this so? The next 16 letters use consonants that alphabetically follow the consonants of the first 16 letters in the Sanskrit Varnamala, in the Sanskrit alphabet, while retaining the same vowel. Mind you, the consonants are the next consonants, the consonants that follow immediately after the consonants that appear in the first 16 letters, while the vowels are retained. Let us explain this with an English example. If the first two syllables, and by syllable again I mean a consonant plus or two consonants plus a vowel, of the first 16 letters, if the first two syllables of the first 16 letters are LA and CE, forming the English word lace, then the first two syllables of the next 16 would be MA and DE, made. Why? Because in the English alphabetical order, M follows L and D follows C, while the vowels A and E are retained. In the verse that I am going to present, I use the standard sequence of consonants from the Sanskrit alphabet as my reference. Watch as consonants progress through the Varnamala grid one step at a time. The verse is Dayabhāra-lasabheda Maniveena-karāpara Dharamāla-vahamedha Yatishita Khalaphala. She is languid with excessive compassion. She is without division and holds a jewel-studded veena in her hand. Dayabhāra-lasabheda Maniveena-karāpara Dhara. She is supporter of the wise. She is garlanded. and she is intellect personified. She is soft on the yatis, the munis, the sages, while she does not bear fruits to the wicked. The verse appears before you. Here, each letter has been split into its component swara and vyanjana. Look how between the first 16 and the next 16 letters, there is a sharing of vowels, but the consonants are the next consonants in the Varnamala. For example, look at the mirroring between the and the. Daya bhara lasa bheda and dhara mala vaha medha. The follows the in the Varnamala. The has been replaced by the, but the swara is the same. Similarly, ya has been replaced by ra because it follows ya in the Varnamala, while a has been retained. Ya dhara. Coming to the last pattern, this is more of a auditory chitra. It is called Āṅglabhāṣābhāsa. This is Sanskrit that sounds like English, and because it sounds like English, obviously this is a new invention. Just listen to the verse with your eyes closed. Do not look at the Sanskrit verse in the Devanagari script that appears before you on the screen. Doesn't the verse sound like it is in English? The verse is actually in praise of Krishna and is in Sanskrit. It is so constructed by mixing and matching Sanskrit and English sounds as to give an impression that it is a series of English sentences. This is a phonetic magic. When you hear the Sanskrit syllables spoken aloud, your ear picks up English phrases like go win the war the way you know. But in Sanskrit, these same sounds form perfectly meaningful words praising Lord Krishna. Govinda Vardave, you know. This is the magic of Āṅglabhāṣābhāsa, a bilingual phonetic illusion where one set of sounds creates meaning in two different languages simultaneously. Watch and hear as the English phrases emerge below the Sanskrit text, revealing the cross-linguistic marvel. Govinda Vardave, you know, Maitri Sansara Veshika, Rama Sarobalar Kosi, Harisho Sunaveddaram. Govinda Vardave, you know, my 3 sons are away shikar, Amas a robe, all are cozy, Hari show soon, await the ram. The meaning is, O Krishna, you were the water that put out the forest fire at Gokula. You are the newly risen son to the lotus lake that is Lakshmi. O Lord, you are the master of Indra even. The world has turned materialistic. Please protect my life. Thank you.